Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Crisóstomo, and I will be the hosting for this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us today in this special webinar. This is our fourth webinar pre-event. And today I'm delighted to welcome Professor Antonio Martínez Arboleda. I'm gonna read a little short resume about the professor. Antonio Martínez Arboleda is a professor of Open and Digital Education and International Head of Open Educational Practices at the University of Leeds. He's part of the founding team of the Knowledge Equity Network CAN and is one of its main leaders. He's also co-director of the Center of Digital Education Research at the University of Leeds. He has published many articles on critical, digital, and open practices and has participated in lead programs of Open Educational Resources, OER. He contributes to student education within the School of Languages, Cultures, and Societies, with research-based podcasting modules and leads public educational engagement activities, notably the International Network of Spanish Poetry Translation Students, La Cátedra de Artemis. Thank you so much for being here with us, Antonio. We're so excited to learn more about the importance of open science in the framework of sustainability.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to everybody. My name is Antonio Martínez Arboleda. I'm professor of Open and Digital Education at the University of Leeds in the UK. I'm also program director for CAN, the Knowledge Equity Network. This webinar is part of Research for Challenges, organized by the Innovation Hub Europe of the Institute for the Future of Education, Tech Monterrey, and ourselves here in Leeds. We are also contributing to the organization. I'd like to thank all of you for being there, the organizers as well, and my colleagues, Professor Ramirez, Professor Montoya, Dr. Caro, and Dr. Zavala, who are contributing to the organization with me here in Leeds. In this webinar today, I will flesh out some of the issues that are at the heart of open science and sustainability, with an eye to prepare the ground for our presentations in the Bootcamp on Tuesday, the 31st of October. That day, I will have the pleasure of sharing a stage with these colleagues of mine, Wilma Wiesenbeek, Karina Bosu, and Paco Iniesto, in one of the sessions of the Bootcamp. And I'm very proud and very excited of this collaboration. Today's webinar is intended for a wide audience, for an audience that is academic, that is perhaps professional, anyone who wants to learn a bit about open research, open science, and anyone who wants to learn why open science matters for sustainable human development and sustainability. I only have 15 minutes to provide a brief overview of the topic and then questions and answers. However, I'm sure that many of you after this webinar and after the bootcamp, if you attend the bootcamp, many of you would want to learn much more about open science and sustainability. So I'd like to recommend some readings, okay? First of all, UNESCO recommendation of on open science and the introduction. They are very accessible, very interesting, and they have more or less everything you need to know to learn about the direction of travel of the world in the field of open science. More academic texts. Well, there have been very, very insightful work recently on the question of open science and sustainability. I have two articles there: open science for accelerating the sustainable development goals, status and prospects in Asia and the Pacific, and also, very interesting, opening up science for a sustainable world, an expansive normative structure of open science in the digital era. Really important work for you to learn about. I would like also to give credit to the fantastic work forthcoming. It's about to be published, if not published very, very recently, of my colleagues from Tech Monterrey, and led by Professor Ramirez Montoya. Research foresight in bridging open science and open innovation, of a view based on the complex thinking paradigm. Other work of interest for our topic today: higher education in the Sustainable Development Goals framework. And finally, something that may have, a historic interest for some of you, is an article by Daryl Chubin from 1985. It's a vintage article, but it's the first article in which we have recorded the use of the term open science. Open science and closed science, trade-offs in a democracy. Really interesting. So, and finally, another recommendation: the Knowledge Equity Network, whose declaration I encourage you to read and sign. Being part of the Knowledge Equity Network, either as a professional or as an institution, is a great way to be part of the open science and open education movements, learning from others, helping others to achieve greater levels of openness and equity, which are essential for sustainability. I leave there the link, and the logo. And I like using metaphors and analogies to talk about complex realities. Analogies actually help us a lot to understand uh, polyedric complex realities and the nuances. For instance, if we can think of science as a space, mm, mm, somehow a closed space, a space or a place that is somehow private, a space that, you know, um, only if you are a member of that club, you can contribute to science, then we can start thinking about what opening means. Imagine science as a closed space, a garden, private gardens. Only if you have access to that garden, you can decide what should be planted, or you can decide how to draw the benefits from the fruits and the flowers. Another analogy, probably better, is the analogy of cooking food, because like in science, cooking requires preparation and planning. Mm. We think about open science or science in general as an activity. For instance, how many people can decide the menu? Who buys the ingredients? When it comes to execution and the need for collaboration, sometimes you may have chefs who have strong personalities and egos and don't let other people to help them. Openness. How much to open? Can you, for instance, record the video of the cooking so that you can publish it later and other people can learn from your cooking? Or do you just publish the recipe? Then it comes a question of serving or distributing the food. Like with science outputs, food needs to be properly presented. It needs to be suitable for consumption and enjoyment. Who can eat and how much you have to pay, who pays. So these are questions that we all need to reflect upon when we think about opening up the planning, the production, and the dissemination of scientific knowledge. And when we think about the opening of a space that has been considered previously as a closed, exclusive space. So is open science, or the opening of science, something new? Well, scientific activity, scholarship, has been opening very slowly for the last centuries. The print, for instance, in the 15th century, and the creation of academic societies, the production of academic journals, they are important milestones for openness because they made the transmission of knowledge much more effective, and they make science more transparent and reliable. Undoubtedly, the opening of knowledge is a process that comes with the change in social political structures and with the changes in technology. So in the 20th century, two major transformations have accelerated the process of opening, or at least they have made obvious the need of opening. One of them is democratization in our societies, and the other one is the digital revolution. Democratization has led to a demand for access and participation in all activities in society that used to be the preserve of the few, including university activities. Digitality. Digitality has provided the leverage for enhanced collaboration and for the sharing of data and outputs. But open science does not happen on its own accord as a slow process. I like to think also of open science as a social movement that started at the beginning of the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century. It's a movement within academia, an intellectual movement, and a movement with activists made up of academics, organizations, institutions who challenge traditional ideas of exclusivity in science. And the movement is very diverse and it has evolved since the first formulation. It has different strands of thought. And open science obviously cannot be understood in isolation from the wider phenomenon of open knowledge, which has been promoted and supported by open education movement, open research data movement, open access to scientific publication, open research practices. And then we have to add to all these terms as well the concept of open scholarship, which refers to arts and humanities within universities as opposed to science, whether it is social science or traditional natural sciences. So anyway, perhaps one day in few centuries time, somebody may decide that the 21st century was the century of open knowledge. So open science, to summarize, open science rejects the ideas of exclusivity, the idea of excellence as a form of vindicating splendid isolation, which is sometimes represented by the metaphor of the ivory tower. And instead, open science defends democratization, transparency, collaboration. Producing evidence-based knowledge is not the preserve of the few. Access to knowledge is a right. So I will give a little foundation, but let me talk now a little bit about sustainability. What is sustainability? Sustainability is obviously the quality of being sustainable, but what is it applied to? Sustainability of what? Well, our relationship with the environment has to be sustainable. Human life needs to be sustainable. Human activities, all human activities, educational, economic, political, need to be sustainable. That means that these activities need to be planned and delivered with an eye on the impact, on the consequences of our activities now for future generations, but also looking at the affordances that we generate with our present activities for future generations. Yeah, some sort of enabling sustainability or building sustainability in the future. There is also a positive element to it. And in this respect, sustainability is at the heart of development, and the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations are providing for all of us the direction of travel. Sustainability is the greatest human mission that lies ahead for us. In a society structured in multi-layered complex organizations, entities, etc., our governments need to include actively sustainability in their agendas. And this is a process that will take a lot of time. But the urgency and severity of the challenges that we face indicate that sustainability will expand into more and more aspects of personal and social life. That is why sustainability is such an important question. It requires politicians, people, businesses, organizations to make choices, to take decisions, sometimes difficult decisions, which involve a change in the culture, in the way we do things, and they involve more economic resources. And not everybody likes change, and not everybody recognizes and invest more resources, sadly. And no matter how we look at sustainability, in any case, evidence-based knowledge, without humanistic research and without education, there is no development. There is no human development, and there can't be equity. Education is crucial and instrumental for humanity as a whole and for individuals. So, what is the going back now to open science? Yeah, what are the pillars of open science for UNESCO in the recommendation of 2021? You have them there on your screen: social engagement, dialogue beyond outputs, infrastructures. These are my denominations, but they cover the denominations of UNESCO that are a little bit more wordy, but I will go through all of them now. First of all, um, social social engagement. The UNESCO talks about open engagement of societal actors. At the heart of the ideas of open science, we can find three key principles. Yeah, democratization, transparency, and collaboration. That is why the UNESCO recommendation considers participation of citizens and scientific volunteering as essential components for science activities. Collaboration also is encouraged when it comes to funding and providing resources for science, for instance, through crowdsourcing. To me, the educational dimension of open science, open research, and open scholarship is the most important. Every scholarly output stemming from research has, one way or another, educational potential, because we're not only learning when we go to school or university, which is formal education. When we read a scientific article in a journal at home, when we watch a video like this video today, there is learning happening, non-formal learning. And anything that supports the learning of others is essentially education. The second pillar of the UNESCO recommendations is open dialogue with other knowledge systems. And it is mentioned here indigenous peoples, marginalized scholar local communities, other local systems, other knowledge systems. In reality, this pillar is very much related to the previous. Here, UNESCO is recommending us to be actively and distinctively inclusive with local and global communities, recognizing the structural inequalities in our world. Then, one of my favorite topics, outputs of open scientific knowledge, the question of licenses. How do you deal with the question of intellectual property of the outputs of the data of the journals that are published, of the research stem, anything that is educational stem from research activities, the digital assets. Who pays for science, the funding of science, the funding of open access? How do you get people to have free access to what scientists produce? And who pays for that free access? Because there is an economic activity and there's a cost involved in producing and publishing that research. And questions of interoperability of systems. When how do you connect data coming from different sources? How do you make scientists access freely that data, etc.? So it's a very important aspect, this one. And then infrastructure. UNESCO also talks about infrastructure, and we need spaces for collaboration for these collaboration in the production of science. And it's very important as well the role of the libraries, because librarians are the curators or the architects of knowledge, if you want, because they work with the structural and functional dimensions of knowledge as a whole, and the role of repositories, the digital infrastructures where you deposit these um, outputs of science, these data, these articles. And finally, my last slide and my conclusion: sustainability and open science. So sustainability has become such an important mission for humanity that in recent years a new discipline has appeared: sustainability science. And what are the characteristics of sustainability science? First of all, it is aimed at fostering shared prosperity and the sustainable development goals, including protecting the environment. And secondly, sustainability science is defined by the problems that it addresses rather than the disciplines it employs. So that means that the new challenges of sustainability require a different type of approach to knowledge building beyond the traditional silo approach, moving from disciplinarity into interdisciplinarity and later transdisciplinarity. And what's the difference between interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity? Um, Interdisciplinary research involves collaboration between researchers from different disciplines, where each discipline and each researcher retains their identity, contributing to the resolution of a common problem. In transdisciplinary research, on the other hand, we seek to break down disciplinary boundaries and integrate them into a unified framework in relation to the complex problem, the real world issue that research is trying to solve in a more holistic way. And this is very much in line with the latest scholarly thought and research in open science. Openness in knowledge production is also leading us to transdisciplinarity. So both sustainability and openness, therefore, demand transdisciplinarity. Finally, sustainability is a contested field, as governments and corporations and individuals take decisions based on research-based advice, on evidence-based policies. That is another reason why openness in science is crucial for sustainability. The fact that this is a contested field. Democratization of knowledge production will lead to greater levels of ownership of that knowledge by our citizens and our communities, which in turn legitimizes socially that knowledge, because open science is transparent and participatory. This means that it's also of a higher quality, because open science that is transparent and participatory can be subject to greater scrutiny, and it can permeate better through society. So, in short, for embracing sustainability as part of our political and educational agendas, we need to ensure that openness is an explicit aspect of our thinking and our work in science. So that's everything for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Antonio, for your presentation. It was really interesting for us. And well, we remind to the audience that if you want to learn more about this topic and other more, you can visit our website that is going to be shown below in the screen. And also, we have some questions from the audience. Well, I'm going to read it for you. The first question is, how can open science improve collaboration between researchers and organizations working on sustainability issues?
Wonderful. Thank you for the question. Well, open science is about collaboration, and collaboration requires shared efforts of teams of people who have different skill sets, different backgrounds, different perspectives. Yeah. So any research effort that requires a greater integration of teams of people with different backgrounds, different skills, different expertise will always generate better outcomes. And in particular, for a field like sustainability science that is problem-based. Problems are always complex. Problems cannot be defined by one single discipline when it comes to the practical matter of solving them. Okay, so this is one of the many ways in which open science can improve collaboration between researchers and organizations who work on sustainability.
Thank you so much. We have other question for you. The next question is, what are the implications of implementing the open science policy?
Well, the implications, that's a very good question as well, thank you. The implications are multiple because, first of all, we as academics, as researchers, we have an identity, a disciplinary identity associated to our field of expertise. We have working practices. We have a framework, professional framework in which we developed our activities. And implementing an open science policy needs to be mindful of the cultural and professional changes that people need to take. It's not something that involves simply opening. It involves doing things differently from the beginning, planning your research activities differently. It involves communicating more with the communities who may benefit from that research, including those communities. It involves learning to work better as a team, but it also involves from funders, organizations, governments who fund the research, to include the right incentives and the right policies so that people feel supported and motivated to move into that direction. So the implications are very, cultural, economic, and I would say that one positive side of this would be that people in society in general will feel closer to what we do, and we will feel closer to what they need and they expect.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have two more questions. This is about the bootcamp, and people wants to know what's the bootcamp's objective.
Okay, so we're going to have, first of all, you can you can sign up for the bootcamp and participate in the bootcamp. Either as a member of the audience, just go there and enjoy and learn, but you can also be in the bootcamp as the author of a published work that we intend to publish after the bootcamp. So there is there are I think it's about 35. I'm not sure of the final number, but there's a 35 or 40 scholars, researchers who have submitted abstracts for a publication after the bootcamp in their respective fields of expertise. So in that bootcamp, one of the objectives is that we are going to be working together with all these academics through workshops, through interactive sessions, through sharing of information and details about our respective projects in order to support openness. We want researchers to learn, to get feedback, to improve their work, to make it more a team effort by participating in the bootcamp. So this is very important because we want to recreate a micro environment in the bootcamp in which people can put into practice these ideas of collaboration, of support, of multi and transdisciplinarity. And we are providing the activities, the tools, and bringing experts so that everybody can feel supported and make the most out of this experience.
Okay, thank you so much. And also, you have the website below in the screen. You can learn more there. And also, you can send us an email for more information or for reservations. The last question is, do I have to submit an abstract to attend the bootcamp in comillas?
Yeah, well, no, you can attend without having submitted an abstract. And so there are people, the bootcamp is open to anyone who is interested in sustainability, in learning, education, frontier knowledge. So sustainability is a shared mission. Is something for all type of professionals, and not only people who work in education like us. So it is open for general audiences. There are a lot of professionals working in different organizations in questions of open science, open education, and sustainability, who will be very interested in being part of the activities. Obviously, if you have submitted an abstract, then you will talk about your work with other people, and you will be able to receive feedback, and you will learn about how to connect with other researchers in that space and in the world. So yeah, obviously each person will get something different out of the bootcamp, but it's perfect. It's a perfectly fine activity. It's really good also if you don't have an abstract, if you are not submitting any work for our open publication, which is an open publication, by the way.
Thank you so much. And well, we remind you that if you want to learn more about these topics, or if you want to learn more about the bootcamp, you can visit our website or our social media. And thank you so much, Antonio, for being here with us. It was very interesting from all the audience, and we hope to see everyone at the bootcamp on October.
Thank you very much to everybody who has been there today, to my colleagues in Tech Monterrey, and obviously to the technical team supporting today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much.